Yes, welcome back. This is F a Rap Critic. I'm your boy Malik 16. And no, it's niggas with accountants. Cause we're old. We old heads now. Not niggas with attitudes. We too old to have attitudes. Oh, man.
Niggas with responsibilities.
Right. Niggas with accountability. You got an A word?
And started saying something with an R and shit. And
Yeah.
kept it on A.
I was wondering if that was gonna get caught.
Good God, of course it's gonna get caught. Caught like nigga. Caught like that nigga.
In case you didn't recognize where you at, you bobbing with the one of the greatest collaborations you're ever gonna come across in your podcast, YouTube life. This is OldHead Youngins matching up with the rap ruler, F a Rap Critic, your boy. And I feel like I'm the honorary third member of that collective.
Indeed, yes sir, yes sir.
No.
This is part 2 of the classic review of the album Str8 Outta Compton by none other than N.W.A. 35 years old this year. And this is category 2 where we go over the rap performance on said album. Matter of fact, I gotta let my guests introduce themselves again because they might look a little different than last time. Everything might look a little different. Who y'all be?
Bert Mitty, one half of the OldHead Youngins. Catch us on Instagram, OldHead_Youngins. We in here, rap trivia. We got season D.O.C on the way. Check out season 1. It's on YouTube as well. Yeah, it's Bert Mitty, baby.
Yeah, aka Sleepy E, aka Ice Tray, aka MC Win.
All that.
And you got your boy OldHead Spoon here from the legendary OldHead Youngins, OldHead #1, aka I'm gonna punch Bert Mitty in his face.
Violent. Niggas with aggression issues.
D Spoon, that's an A. That's an A.
I know I dropped the ball on that. I take full responsibility, full accountability.
Real accountability. I feel like confetti should come out the sky every time we do it the right way, like Pee Wee Herman. All right, y'all know how this goes. If you have not already, after you take a moment to go and check out the respective sites that have been dropped here, also go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube channel because they will be back in effect with a new season soon. And while you're at it, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel here. And we'll jump right into the first dimension of category 2, which is going to be dimension 1, personality and charisma. Talking about at this time, what is that? 4 or 5 personalities on the mic from the group, and how charismatic collectively they were, but we can also talk about the individual charisma. So
Yeah, just getting people on one thing is always a feat and a masterstroke for these legendary groups. You know what I mean? You know that with every group that gets together, their story is always an interesting story on how they got together, and then and meshing those personalities. It's always like that on sports teams and whatever. You know what I mean? Once you put a bunch of people in there, even when it's just 2, man, because I hate this dude. You know what I mean? This guy. So you know what I mean?
Hey, the feeling is mutual.
Yeah. So yeah, it's real hard to get them, but as far as personalities go, yeah, they did a good job of letting each other shine, and I do feel like they each carry themselves well, and they had their thing. Like Ren to me, I go first with Ren. Ren was just the tough guy, and man, always just in your face and aggressive.
Yeah, let's jump into the individual characters on the mic. I do think they each give something different, even though, like you pointed out, it's a collective agenda. They're all on the same accord, right? We talked about the uniformity of their presentation image-wise, like they were selling this image with the Raiders hats, with the Lokes, with the black jackets, the kind of all black everything before all black everything But beyond that, they do give you these slices of their individuality. And I think Cube being the most boisterous member, besides Eazy. Eazy's boisterous, but I think it's kind of understood universally that he's more comedic than everyone else on this album.
Oh, no doubt. And that needed that. But they did spit some comedy a lot.
But Eazy's whole his persona in general, with the high pitched voice, you know, I feel like to me he was always my favorite. He was always the one that stood out to me, you know. And I love Eazy. R.I.P. Eazy, man.
Cube is the loud, most brash of all of them as far as song by song. He's leading most of his tracks that he's on, and he's yelling his well, we'll get to the delivery in a minute, but he's in your face with it. Ren is right there backing up all those claims with almost a calmer presence, but kind of saying the same kind of stuff. And then you get Dre, who sounds more like, I'm more concerned about this music and I'm addressing all other music makers. Dre's not giving you the most violent stuff on there. It's more about, you know, dissing whack people that want to do stuff on the music scene. And then Eazy is comedic, kind of saying the most crazy stuff, almost tit for tat with Ice Cube, was saying the most outlandish stuff and crazy stuff, but with that comedic element. And so you get those slices of their personalities. You don't hear from Yella on this album, but you get the four distinctions just by listening. Again, we're spoiled because we all know what came before, what came after, what came during, what became, but like just on wax, I'm like, okay, they all play a role. And then when you listen to the solos is where you really hear what they individually are concerned about. And I know we brought this up in the video one. You consider when some of these songs were made. Were some of these made earlier before they decided what their like specific image was going to be? Because you listen to the Ren solo tracks, and his solo tracks, he's not cursing and he's talking about wrecking the mic. Like, that's his concern. But his tracks with Ice Cube and with Dre, he's coming in aggressively, like what Bert pointed out. And then Dre's solo, again, he's not cursing. He's just rapping about express yourself and I don't smoke weed.
Understand, sis.
But Eazy-E, when given a chance by himself, he chooses to rhyme about 8-ball. You know, like, in sex. Like, he's more sexually geared in his lyrics than the rest of them. So it really is interesting. I don't know if, like, some of those more MC cuts were made before they decided we're gonna scare people. But,
no, I feel you.
Who's the most charismatic member out of this on this album?
Eazy. Eazy was everyone's favorite.
But I don't know, man. Dre was spitting that like little smooth little, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was.
His delivery has always been like walking in, you know, like, you know, like that's always been him. So as far as charisma goes, you know, I mean, it's easy. Eazy is the easy answer, you know. But for me, I mean, but hold up, you see, I don't know. You gotta let me think about it for a second.
Yeah, because Cube is all over this album, and
Cube, you know, Cube is the writer, man. You know,
Cube is the writer.
You would think Cube is the leader based on how much he leads off and how powerful the statements he makes, right? Yeah.
You say charisma, I jump to smoothness, and who's you know what I mean? Who's leaning up against the wall? You know what I mean? Talking to a girl at the locker. And that's when you say charisma. That's where I jump to. I know this
got you. Which is a part of it. I think charisma is more
different parts of it. There's different parts of it.
Yeah, there's different parts of it because that's the charm part of it. I guess charisma in this sense is whatever that element is that compels you to want to listen to the next track, to care enough to invest in it. I think if this was Ren's album by himself, he'd probably be the least charismatic out of the batch.
No doubt.
Because there's just something about how he comes across. There's just a steadiness to him. He's steady, and he's always been the most steady member of the whole group. But Cube, because he's so incendiary with the stuff he's saying, and he's throwing them at you, you can't help but notice him and be like, man, what? By the time you get to Gangsta and the stuff that he's saying, like every line he's trying to like outdo the last crazy thing that he said, right? It continues to keep you locked in. And same thing with Eazy, where Spoon is saying that's the go-to for everybody, but Eazy might be a little bit more abrasive. And if you don't want that much abrasiveness, Ice Cube is the notch down, Ren is the next notch, and then Dre is the safest. Where they lack charisma, the controversy filled that space. It's like, I just want to listen just for the sheer
shock value.
Rambunctiousness of this. Like, what are they gonna say next? They liable to say anything, and they did. Just when you thought this was a crazy song, or just when it got tame in the middle, they come back at the end with the wild songs to cap it off. So, if nothing else, we all agree there's a bunch of personality on this album. What y'all giving this on a scale from 1 to 5 heartbeats for personality and charisma?
5. Hands down, the personality was just, it was everywhere. These guys came with it. They drew you in from the moment you back then pressed that play button on the tape deck. You were drawn in and you listened to everything they had to say.
They burst on the scene, right? They literally burst on the scene when they came through that little piece of paper. Well, a big piece of paper. But yeah, man, I would say 4. You know what I mean? Because I ain't gonna go all out like Spoon, be all perfect and stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, something to consider on a scale from 1 to 5 for all of y'all. That takes us to dimension 2, probably the dimension we're gonna spend the most time on in this category: believability or suspension of disbelief. God damn it! Now all the hip hop pros nowadays, and all the experts and journalists, all the king's horses and all the king's men will tell you, oh, this is a great exercise in suspension of disbelief. But as I pointed out in video 1, most of us were like Nori. He believed every second of this, and there's nothing on this album and in N.W.A.'s catalog that tells you otherwise, that this is just for entertainment and this is all a role. These guys are walking around telling you this is them, this is what they do, this is where they're from, and they stood by it. It's not like they switched up on the next album or the next EP. This was this until the cards got pulled later. Like I said, we're all spoiled now because we know how these things played out. We know who these men became later in life. Saw something the other day that I sent y'all that I didn't know, where they said something about they used to have a contest to see how many women they could pull while they were on tour and have relations with them, but without them necessarily wanting it initially, and how this resulted in MC Ren having a case and a baby with an underage.
I saw what when he was talking about that. Yeah, when that guy was reacting to what Ren was saying. Yeah.
And I might cut this part out, but I'm just like, damn. Yeah, nothing in their catalog, nothing on this album in particular states otherwise, that this is an album where you're supposed to believe that this is just excessive, hyperbolic character rapping. This is mostly them saying this is who they are. We find out, Eazy's the most gangster, speaking of believability, and in real life rap sheet and
right.
Street dealings, we find out Eazy is the one who's rooted in a lot of that, which was also probably a protective factor for them too. Like, you can't question the whole group if their front man is got
right.
street cred.
Right.
But that also, I think that allowed them to more confidently be silly. I I think you can take chances and be silly when you know you're the toughest. It's like, I'll do the jokes.
Right.
On one of the tracks, they even say, with Eazy-E, the criminal of the ruthless posse. I'm like, they snitching him out. But it ain't no snitching when, like, the crazier you are, the realer you are. So yeah, it was more fashionable on wax to be like, yeah, and I killed somebody yesterday.
Right.
I mentioned in video one that one excerpt that I heard, but I don't know if that's from the deluxe version of this or the liner commentary or something, where Eazy said, we're trying to piss you off and F you if you don't like it. If anybody in the comments below knows exactly what audio that's from, that's the closest I've gotten to hear Eazy-E talk about how this was designed. But what do y'all think? Is this a suspension of disbelief kind of album, or is this kind of them saying, nah, this is us?
What can we fall back on to really answer that? You know what I mean? What can we really look upon and say to ourselves, all right, yeah, that's real. Especially being where I'm from, like, I'm all the way on the other side of the country. You know what I mean? Like, I have no choice but to believe it. I'm putting myself in shoes. I have no choice but to take their word as gospel.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think it's an album where they even give you that, like you said, that option of thinking, oh, okay, this is a character, let me just enjoy it for
right. Too raw, it was too real, it was too new.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's no way I was gonna look at that and go, nah, I don't know about this. I mean, the concept of being a fake studio gangster wasn't even embedded in my, conscious at the time. So there's no way I could have even gone to that. And like you said before, we have the luxury of, being in the present, but I'm like, I ain't gonna be like Spoon. I ain't gonna be no Mark. And I ain't gonna act like, I'm 37 years old. You know what I mean? I'm gonna act like I'm 8 and, 9, 10, whatever. And, so I was definitely feeling it. So as far as believability, I think they did an excellent job, man. I believe it, man. I don't care what anybody says. Shit.
Agreed. I mean, what was the first video that came from that album? Was it? It was Str8 Outta Compton.
Str8 Outta Compton, yeah.
I mean, when you just watching that video, man, you can't make that up. Like the scenery, like everything. It was like a snapshot into reality of the day, of the time. And I remember just watching that video and just being like, damn, man, this is life. This is what it is. And then you see back then they had Cops was on TV back then, right? Cops debuted.
Yeah, I think it just started too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly around that same time. So it was like, now you gave the usual suspects from the cop show, you gave them a voice now, and here they are, just giving it to us, and we're consuming it. And nah, man, that stuff is real.
Man, what a great point. I didn't realize how, like the visual aspects of life had shifted. Videos meant more.
Oh yeah.
But now we have other mediums that are showing what the videos are showing, where videos used to be flashy or maybe stage based. It's just like performance clips. Now this is a whole, like, damn, this video looks like the show I just watched. And it's showing a more gritty existence. Then on top of that, it gets banned by the major video playing outlet, MTV. So now you're seeking it. What's up? Controversy sells.
Oh yeah.
Bert, you made an interesting point about hip hop being the only genre where the keep it real is an ingredient. It's a requirement.
Yeah.
But I think we touched on this in video one, where we talked about the impact and legacy of this album. This is the album that caused that. For all intents and purposes.
The term studio gangster definitely originated, out there. So yeah.
Yeah. This became you have to be what you're saying, and now because it's set in this hardness register, now you gotta be hard. If fly was your brand, you better be fly. But it wasn't as emphasized as it was here. I talked about this on the Big Daddy Kane review. where he is kind of the first swag rapper. Him and Slick Rick, they like ushered that in. Like there's plenty of rappers who were bragging and stuff, but what they brought to it was that you cared that the image matched what was being said. They ushered in that new era of, oh snap, nah, you better look like the flyest dude with the gold chains if you rapping all of this. So it's like
part in your hair better be lying every time I see you.
Right. And so for the hardcore register, this set that, and from there we just never went backwards. This changed how we looked at rap forever. Like it's like, nah, if it ain't rough, it ain't right. If it ain't rough, it ain't me. And that's a pedigree that they kept repeating all throughout this album.
Man, poor Onyx, man. They just had to be hardcore 24/7. Jeez.
24/7.
Poor guys.
Poor guy. And you know, when I met Run DMC, he told me they were all barbers. Like and they just decided to be the East Coast version of N.W.A. But you know, I mean, nobody's not rooted in something. You know, these guys were, oh, I can't even say that. I was gonna say these guys were from the hoods that they were playing, but we find out Ice Cube's not even from Compton.
Right.
So it's always a convoluted question, because it's whether we know that this whole thing is fabricated. How good of a job did they do on this record of making us believe it? I think that's what y'all are saying.
This was like WWF, and like when it came out, and our parents said, oh, it's fake. You know, everyone would, if you got hit that hard, you would bleed, and be like, nah, it's real. This was on that level.
Yeah. But I think even then, like, everyone believed them. The grandmothers were clutching their purses and their pearls. The kids were like, oh my God. And the teens were like, hell yeah, they're the realest thing out. So everyone believed it. That's why they were afraid of it. The FBI believed it that much, you know. So
was this the first hip hop record to get the parental advisory sticker?
Two Live Crew was the first one.
Two Live, okay.
Yeah.
But this one deserved it, though. This one, it was well deserved, that parental advisory sticker.
Yeah, don't quote me on it. I know Two Live Crew is the album that took it to court. And Two Live Crew is why we have the parental discretion. But this definitely just got straight up banned and, you know, FBI questioned. So everyone believed them. And so for that, we can decide whether we're going to give that a high rating because the believability was there. Listening back, I don't know how believable this is to adult ears though. Like, you guys think even if you were, let's say you were 25 in 1988, would you still believe this, or would you be like, nah, this is over the top. This can't be real.
Who wasn't?
You have to believe it.
I think the only people who weren't believing it were like, you know, Tyrone from up the street who noticed, you know, Ran and Cube walking. They were like, nah, them dudes ain't that. You know what I mean? That's the only dudes who would notice, you know what I'm saying? Tom in Milwaukee, Larry in New Mexico, they don't know shit, you know? So that's believability to the highest point.
Even then, the reason that the cards didn't get pulled back in the days is because it was so new to hip hop that instead of the gangsters being insulted, that these rappers were telling their stories, they're like, yeah, someone talking about this is hard.
They were the biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah. And that's only because they were new, and it was a new thing.
Exactly.
Now, if a gangster rapper comes out perpetrating a life that they don't live, they get all kinds of cards pulled.
Now it's insulting.
It's insulting. But back then it was like, oh, voice for the voiceless.
Exactly.
You're talking my language.
Yeah, I mean, you remember those, even on, I'm gonna go back to TV again, but like the nightly news, like what you were seeing on TV, like those specials on like gang violence in LA and all that stuff. This was like the audio art from that. You know, so this is I give it a 5. Like
5. No.
Easily.
All right. So for believability, they left the mark on a game that has been indelible. It's never been erased. They changed the standard for listenability, and you know, it's the reason why we have to have these wild ass debates in hip hop instead of just appreciating a piece of music for music's like, but was you doing it?
Fiction, non-fiction matter to me, man. people, I like heavy, crazy metaphors in rap. I listen to people who say, I punch a hole in the moon. That's all that. So it's whatever. keeping it real.
Yeah, I mean they did a lot of damage with that fiction though, and so I saw another post that the woman that was behind the R. Kelly documentary, Jamila Lemieux, she was reacting to a mural that they recently unveiled in LA with like all the members of N.W.A.'s little boys, and she's like, when are we gonna stop pretending that these guys didn't usher in a whole era of misogyny, violence, and she was going in on him, and I was like, oh, why don't you come to the show and be a guest? Because it'd be interesting to get
that would have been sweet.
It'd be interesting to get a woman's opinion. I think I tried to get someone to represent the female outlook on this panel with us. Could you imagine how crazy this episode would have been?
Dolores Tucker would not be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into what I said before, but there's a thing about the believability that it does matter, just because the standard causes so much recklessness in hip hop. We see how many people die trying to live up to this hardness representation, which didn't exist before. Like, again, nobody was testing Rakim. Did you really line 7 MCs up? Like, so, we're forever stuck with this outgrowth. Yeah. And we'll get into the lyrics in a second. All right, Dimension 3, the delivery and use of voice. Boy, we got some different voices here. So along with the different personalities, we get that contrast of the different tones and textures of their voices, which I think is the real secret weapon here.
You had Dre with that deep, and then you had Eazy with the high pitch. So it's like, and then you had all the guys in between. So
yeah, Ice Cube and Ren are kind of like continuations of that, right? Because Ice Cube is the more belting and yelling, and then Ren is the calmer but deeper voice compared to Ice Cube. So you get both dynamics, but their voices are still in the middle compared to how low Dre's is and how high Eazy's is. So yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. They all had distinctive voices. That was great for them, man. Yeah, that Eazy was new. I don't know how many high pitched rappers did we have
after that?
How many falsetto rappers?
Falsetto rappers. He said he hated, or I read where he said he hated the sound of his own voice on record. We know now.
For real? Wow.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe, because I mean, to me, a lot of rappers can't help using their normal voices, and they just they don't have, I don't know, they don't have that creativity or range to kind of like figure out like what's marketable.
Right.
Eazy, I feel like he figured that out from the moment he stepped in a recording booth.
Well, we know Eazy didn't want to be a rapper to begin with. He was always the idea man and the money man, because he's coming from his street base. He always was like, let's print this out on our own label, and let me take care of it from there. But I think Cube or Dre convinced him to get on the mic. D.O.C. wanted him, and he was actually like the lead off before the group. But yeah, he said he never liked his voice.
It's crazy.
Word up. I can see why. And everybody's macho when they rapping, you know what I mean? And then this dude's coming in.
He went against the grain, and it was a hit.
Yeah. Unlike some of the other California rappers that came out right after them, they also didn't have like much of a twang. You'd have to be able to really put your finger on how you knew that they had a California accent, but it wasn't as obvious as like DJ Quick, right. Man. That twang be twanging, right? So it's like
MC8.
Yeah, it's like with Cube, it would just kind of be more like from some of the language they said, like gank. In the movie they played off of that. Man. The New York guys were like, what's gank? But
it's fantastic.
Yeah, they all rap declarations. And I think, it's the 80s. Most people were rapping declaratively, but they definitely, you take Dope Man, he's like, if you smoke rock, you a stupid. Like, you just, it's like everything's a bold ass statement.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Matter of fact.
And the voices help them play off. And because they separate on the album into different iterations of the group, you get to hear them play off of that. So there's some tracks like Something to Dance To, which is Dre and Eazy going back and forth. So you hear what that sounds like. But then you get Compton's in the House, or something like that, where it's just Dre and Ring, and they're putting their voices together. Now they're doing something that you didn't hear in rap since like the Cold Crush days. They're doing whole verses saying the same rhyme together, harmonizing, 2-part harmony pretty much on both of those tracks together. So Dre's voice and Ren's voice, who are ironically the two deepest voice members, but now they got to project a little bit more than they do on other tracks because it's just them two. You guys peep that?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you get Gangsta Gangsta, which is just Cube and Eazy. Then you get other tracks where it's just kind of Ren and Cube. So you get to hear all the pairings that you might want to hear in one album.
Did a hell of a job. It's arranged very. We talked about the arrangement before, right? In part one.
Mm-hmm.
Arranged nicely, man. Yeah, man. They put it together.
Yeah, it only makes sense that we talk about rap family trees that Bone Thugs comes from the Eazy-E branch, who is another group with perfectly established vocal tones. Like the definition of a quartet, right? Or even though they're technically a quintet, when we were introduced to them, we just did 4, right? Yep. And you got the two deeper voice members and the 2 higher pitched voice members. And then you at 2 extremes, you get one of those is really deep and one of those is really high. All right, what y'all giving this for delivery and use of voice on a scale from 1 to 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth. Like I said before, man, like for real, these dudes really came with it, man. The aggression, to tone it down at the, when they needed to tone it down. And what I was saying before, like they all like Eazy and then Dre and then everybody in the middle as far as their tone goes. And yeah, man, 5, definitely, man. They knocked it out the park.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna say the same thing. Gotta give it a 5. You got those extremes of the Eazy and the Dre, and the contrast. It works so perfectly, man. I don't know how they figured that out. Whether it was trial and error or just they got lucky and just But nah, it blends perfectly.
All right. Dimension 4, the flow. Not to be mistaken for the delivery, the flow. Like, how are they rapping? Like, what kind of rhyme sequences, rhyme structures are they using throughout this album? This is where I go back to something Bert said earlier. He was talking about Dre. No, Spoon, that might have been you. You talking about Dre having a smooth presence.
That was me.
That was. Oh, look at it. He want to take credit for that quick.
Yeah. To be the non-rapper, Dre has always had like an uncanny knack for like hitting those pockets perfectly. I've never heard Dre really stumble. And it starts with this album. Like when you hear a song like Express Yourself, it's not only a clean song in the sense that there's no curses on it. He's gliding on that track.
Man, how does he do that? You would think he was a rapper. Like you would think he was one of the a lead rapper of, even today listening to that. Like he was just so flawless.
It was clean.
Yeah, flawless. And I think because of those choices in delivery and vocal tone, that plays a factor. You lose a little degree of fluidity when you choose to be so boisterous, right? If Eazy-E is like 40 on my lap coat, freezing my balls, right? You lose how much slinkiness you get with that, right? Dre would have said it. Dre might have said that a little bit more like in the cut.
Yeah.
But same thing with Cube. Cube, because he wants you to hear the snarl of what he's saying.
Yeah, he's gonna hit you with that one quick witty punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, punch. There you go.
Get it? Do you get it?
That's the perfect word, Bert. Punch. Because Cube and Eazy are going for punch, they lose a little bit of fluidity, whereas Ren and Dre seem like the flowers of the group.
Yeah, they're just like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you listen to the solos, is where it becomes the most evident. Again, the tracks where it's just Dre and Ren, they're doing more of that. I gotta make these statements, so it's less about the how much continuous flow they can maintain, because it's more, all right, we're the only two, we gotta be the brash ones. It's interesting because when the D.O.C comes on, parental discretion is advised. He introduces a flow that we haven't heard on the album up to that point, and Dre picks it right up. But Dre will play with more things with syllables, like when he's like, cameras are flashing, and it's just like, you don't hear other members doing that. And so parental discretion advised is probably the calmest that you hear everybody. Even Cube comes in, and his flow is different from everywhere else on the album, and he sounds probably the most lyrical that he sounds on the whole album on that. And he kind of falters. By the time he says the line about lynching, he loses it, because he's got like a nice steady flow, and it's different, like I said, from anything that you heard Ice Cube do, because it's the only track on there where he's not doing that yelling kind of delivery. But they all kind of come off on that track.
Yeah, that's right. I think the D.O.C probably sparked that, and everybody's like, oh, we gotta step it up. We gotta actually flow like how we supposed to flow.
Yeah, I believe that. And on the MC Ren solos, you're hearing that. You're hearing like the steadiness. I think I said the word steady before, but he's coming at you like maintaining that in pocket. Like everything is going to hit and land on the drum where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fast paced. When I did the Ghetto Boys review, they're analogs there. Scarface has a solo on there called Seek and Destroy, and it's the only track on the album where they're not really cursing, and it's all about MCing. Every other song on the album is about some dark, crazy N.W.A level stuff, where they're going out their way to be controversial. But that, he's like rapping around now, which is kind of the common flow of the day, the Public Enemy type flow. It's more continuous, it's more wordy, and it's on the faster side of things. Ice Cube tends to have a Run DMC kind of flow on Dope Man. Here's a little that's his flow throughout that whole song. That's very Run DMC.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, Ren on his own tracks, way more syllables, way faster of a flow throughout each verse. And Dre on Express Yourself is pretty fast.
They're not influenced by the other members, and they're just at peace, just kind of flowing how they would. They're more natural, I feel like, in their own elements.
Yeah, that's a great word. Individually, you will get different flows from each of them. Like the way Cube raps on "I Ain't the One" is different than any track. Like it's probably the most intentionally slow that he is throughout the whole album. The one that get played like a pool butt. See, I'm from the streets, so I know what's up on these silly games that's played by the women. Like he's not rapping that slow anywhere else on the album. So you'll hear him at different speeds. You'll hear Dre at different speeds. You'll hear Ren at different speeds. Eazy's probably the only one that raps the same on every track.
And you know what? He was so high pitched in his, that's hard to kind of change up. Like when you're going at that level, I feel like. Remember they used to say he used to take so long to record because he had to muster up the strength in his voice to keep that that tone, that pitch, and it would take him forever. Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard the story. Like it took him they said it took him I think 8 hours to record Dope Man.
Wow,
Yeah.
just his verse on Dope Man?
Just his. Oh, sorry, 8 Ball.
Boys, 8 Ball. Wow.
8 Ball. Yeah. Because he was just like, and I just remember too recording, like I had a high pitched voice too, and it's like I can see how that, especially back then, you know you got to get it right on like you could the producer or engineer couldn't fix up certain portions of where you messed up.
Right.
So,
we talk about reels and that. Yeah.
Exactly. No digital technology whatsoever in the recording process. So now with Eazy, I think you don't get that at all because his style and technique was just a little. It was limited in what he could actually do with that voice at that pitch.
Right, and he had no technique. He's the only one who wasn't organically a rapper. Like Dre is not organically a rapper, but like I said, he had just had that uncanny gift. He's so musically in tune. He knew how to hit in pocket. Eazy's gonna go in there and do what he has to do because it's written and it's like, okay, say these rhymes. So we see the least variation with him. Before a 4-man group to get different flows from every other member on different songs, because the way they're rapping on Something to Dance To, they're not rapping at that speed on any other track either. They're like matching that futuristic pace of that kind of electro hip hop. So, and it's a talking style too, right? Yeah, so you give flows. What y'all giving this for flows on a scale from 1 to 5?
Eazy brings them down. Eazy brings the group grade down.
On the flow, on the flow level, got you.
That's all.
I agree. I can't go any higher than a 3 because Eazy. I love Eazy, but like that from that category, it's not his thing. He did. You can't go higher than a 3. A 3 is generous.
Fair enough. All right, that takes us to Dimension 5, the wordplay and the bar intent. All right, so now we get to what they were actually saying on this microphone, and there's some moments on there. You do get some rap devices here, and I think parental discretion is going to be your biggest showcase of that. D.O.C leads it off with just simple stuff like. He says something for the record, and he said, and for the record, meaning my record. Now check it. Meaning like he's plugging his solo that's on the way. It's like, oh man, I don't know if we heard a rapper do that before. Like, and by the way, my album coming soon. Like, that wasn't. You ain't hear Slick Rick on Dougie's Freshest Cuts like, by the way, my album's coming next. Like, well, on that same track, tell me if y'all noticed this. Cube takes a shot at Kid and Play.
Nah.
Because I remember they were saying. I never
picked up on that.
Hell no.
Yeah, he. This is like one of the famous behind the scenes interview cuts. I think Ren was talking about how Cube didn't understand their popularity. He thought they were corny rap, and I think Cube has gone on record in the past, kind of dissing Will Smith, MC Hammer, and that style of rap that he considers safe and playful. And they were on tour where they were hearing like Kid and Play blow up. And so Cube has a line on there where he says something about like the kid with the high top fade, but he calls him Play instead of Kid because he didn't know which one was which.
Oh,
there's something like that.
That's disrespect. He made it right.
It's a sub. I remember, I think in an article somewhere, Kid said something about Kid could. They came face to face, or like they had an interaction after that line. Or it's really interesting. I'll pull up what I can.
Is it just because they were just in different styles, different genres? That's all?
Yeah, Cube made it his business for like most of the early parts of his career to like take
police.
What'd you say?
Ice Cube was the keep it real chief of police, man.
Yes. Matter of fact, for his whole career, yeah, even when he was with West Side Connection, they had a song on their second album called "So Many Rappers in Love," and they were making fun of all like the sing rap that it became popular because I think this is like Ja Rule era. And I never forget that song because it's him and Mac 10. So many rappers in love on the radio, like.
Yeah, I gotta hear that. I never heard that one.
Cube will snarl the world to death if you let him. He's gonna go to his grave still snarling but yeah, he does that, but he's saying some of the most imagery laden lyrics of the whole album where he's like, I flow like Niagara, like they all did their thing. They all come in with more imagery, more metaphor than any other track on the album. And then Ren does this thing on his solos. I don't know if y'all noticed this either, where he says rhymes.
Oh, his reversing the rhyme?
Yeah.
Man, I hated when he did that.
Now why?
Because it's like they're filler. That's filler lyrics.
Wow.
And it's like, come on, man. Like, you can dig deeper than this, dude. You got some ability, you know. I would expect that from somebody like Eazy-E if he was writing his own rhymes. You know what I mean?
This is a hot take. I didn't see this one coming. So you didn't think it was clever to be like pumping the music and got the music like pumping or screaming with fear because it's with fear that you're screaming.
I couldn't get with that, and that's why I don't rate Ren that high on this album.
Whoa.
He could have done better. He was taking the easy way out and not trying to dig deep. Because like it's so elementary. Like, come on, man. And like I said, I can't rate him that high on this album. His performance to me, with the highs that he had, like he takes away when he does this type of stuff, and I can't get with it. I'm gonna give that a thumbs down.
So not even in the context of him like kind of carving out his like go-to how you identify him, like, oh, that's his style. He does that. Not even.
He did it too much. He overdid it. He overdid it. It was overused. And I just didn't like. I never liked that. Never liked how he was doing that.
Got you. As a writer, I will say, when you listen to If It Ain't Rough, the way he wrote, I always give a lot of props to rappers who are able to line up certain refrains or certain devices at the same place at the same time in each verse. So like, if you're gonna end your verse all the same way, like Guru, right? You and I are the past, say La Vie, much respect, girl, but now you're my ex, girl, because I'm on to the next girl. You remember to say that at the same place every verse, that's cool at the end. But what Ren was doing, he started doing the reverse things at the same points at two different spots in each verse. And I'm like, oh, you really planned this out. This wasn't just like a thing. So there was some thought into it. It tells me that even though he's saying, yeah, guilty's the verdict because the verdict is guilty, like he was at least like, oh, on the fourth bar of this verse, I'm gonna do another reverse line, and on the fourth bar of the next verse, I'm gonna do another reverse line. So I give that credit for it being intentional. Yeah. Bert, how you feel about that?
I don't see how Spoon thinks that's a bad thing. How you think that's a negative thing? That's spectacular to me, man. Come on, man. He's doing it. I mean, you know what's so great about it is like you telling me about that now. I ain't even really noticed it. You know what I mean? Like that's a fabulous thing to point out. You know what I mean? He did it subtly. It's clever. I like it, man. Spoon, you think that's no good? That's fantastic, man.
It's no good. It's no good.
Reverse.
Yeah, I understand both arguments because it's like the space that line took up could have been another thoughtful line instead of you telling me the same line you just said, like a palindrome, like like you're just flipping it.
Let somebody try to do that. Let somebody try to do that today, and see how that would be. How that would be criticized.
I mean, you can't do that now. I mean, it's not that bad, man. That's wordplay, man. Like a guy like Rock Marciano will use the same word, different meaning. I mean, that's not horrible, man. He did it a lot. Like how much?
Yeah, he did it. He did it at least 4 times each verse, but he did it in the same place each verse. What's crazy is that all throughout the album, Ren says the most clever stuff. Like
he does. He does. But he takes it. It's just totally. He takes away. It cancels out with that.
Like on Str8 Outta Compton, one of his first lines is he's like, "Not the right hand, because I'm the hand itself." It's like, oh, okay.
Very, very clever. Very clever.
It's like simple but clever. And then he says on the Comptons in the house, he says, "For the record, it's Ren. For the streets, it's the villain." And I'm like, okay.
No, very, very clever. Very spectacular ability. But like I said, it just cancels out when you, because you know he has that ability, but it's like he's just
he did that for a reason though, Spoon. Like it.
He must have. It just didn't work for me. It did not work for me.
Cube gets the credit for being the pen for the group, but quiet as kept, Ren was the most lyrical on this album. If we're reading verses and we're talking about what this dimension is asking, the intent, he's taking the extra step to bend words and do something different with them. Ice Cube is painting a picture, so he's straight up. If he's saying, "Come to the door for the crack rock," you're like, there's no
literal, super literal,
everything is very literal with Cube. It's just you're more impressed at his boldness to say it, but there's nothing that you have to rewind or really think about with what Cube is saying. The most intricate Cube gets is when he is rapping about women, like where he says that line, "You know I spell girl with a B." I'm like, oh, we needed more lines like this, Cube, even though it's at the expense of women, but it's like it's a line that makes you have to go, oh, for a minute. It's not just clear, like again, when he's like, I turned to Ren and said, "Let's start some shit." There's no thought to that. It's like, okay, that's clear as day. And then when he's describing the character of Strawberry on Dope Man, if you notice on Dope Man, he takes it from 3 different angles. The first verse is him rapping about what the dope man in the community represents. How they got the flashy rocks, how they drive this car, from selling dope. Then the next verse is about the actual dope fiend and his judgment statements on it, right? If you smoke dope, you a stupid mother. And then the third one is about the crack whores, or what the women do when they're turned out on drugs. Then Eazy comes in, whose verse Q writes, and he's the actual dope man himself. So that's the 4th angle that song comes from. So that's where you get the bar intent and creativity from Cube. It's like, oh, when he wants to tell a story, that's where you get in that creativity. Because he could have easily made each verse about bragging as the dope man, but he's like, I'm gonna hit you with 4 different angles of this.
Mm-hmm.
What y'all giving this for wordplay and bar intent?
I'm a say. I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Cube
carried.
Ren came with it. Ren, you gotta take points away from Ren. At least I do for this with the reverse bars. But nah, it's they do it. They go in with they have some intent there. They go in.
Yeah, that the intent is more there for me than the
wordplay.
Yeah, the wordplay. It was there. It was there. So yeah, I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 4 as well.
Mention 6. the punchlines and poetic wisdom, the overall quotability of this album. Because we talked about Eazy being the comedic element of this album, I think he's where you get the most punchlines. Even though Cube is saying these bold statements, and at times Ren is saying these bold statements, Eazy's saying them in very funny ways and memorable ways. On 8 Ball alone, there's those moments where, and they didn't have to do this, and this is how you know that they had senses of humor, because what's that part where he's like, something is hell, the girl's telling me, Irk, your breath smell.
Your breath smell, yeah.
And they even had the girl doing the voice part like that. That's creative, that's funny. You know, they were trying to drive that humor point home, because he could have just said it. But, you know, you got the girl in the ghetto is sounding girl too. Irk, not even Eric, Irk.
Irk.
Sounded like Levitra from the Steve Harvey show. Was it Levitra or Levita?
Levita, I think.
That's another song where it seems like a sub all throughout 8 Ball. I took that song. It seemed like that song was a diss to Beastie Boys, Brass Monkey.
Oh yeah, he says he drops references.
Yeah, he says F Brass Monkey like 2 times throughout that song. And yeah, he's like, this is what we on over here on the West Coast. For a long time, they were the champions of the 8 Ball. To the point where, shoot, they might have contributed to the popularity of 40s in hip hop too.
Oh, of course.
Now that I think about it, because I remember that being a big deal when Cube switched up as a soloist. Like, we don't drink Old English, we drink St. Ides. Y'all remember that whole moment in history?
Yeah, the commercial, right, with a video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mexicans seem to get the butt of a lot of the jokes all throughout this album. On 8 Ball, he's like, this Mexican hit my car, effed up my day, I was on my way. And then at the beginning of Gangsta, they're like, oh, there go those peachy gangsters. Who are they gonna get next? And they're like, you. And then at the end of Dope Man, it's, hey, Mr. Dealer, you sold the drugs, but I put in your culo 48. Look like it's like, yo, they.
Oh, that, yeah.
That's one of those like hidden undertones that I don't know is easily picked up on. Like at the end,
I didn't really pick up on that either.
Yeah. Besides the the humorous punchlines that come from Eazy, there's some attempts at punchlines on here. I think that comes from the stuff that D.O.C writes mostly. There's a line where Dre says, unlike a lot of suckers who claim they're getting busy when their records only make good frisbees.
Yeah, that was a dope one.
To Bert's point, that was a new line in hip hop back then.
Yeah.
You ain't never heard nobody call a record a frisbee on whack. Like that was a
and then you
drop
could
the mic
imagine
punchline.
And then you could just imagine how that would, you just got a CD that's so whack. Say
right. Or shoot, it wasn't even CDs back then, it's vinyl. So somebody throwing your vinyl. Then we talked about the recklessness. Of course, there's a lot of reckless lines. Cube literally talking about grabbing a shotgun and shooting up a party because they see some dudes they don't like after they already punched them and stomped them out. Eazy-E with that line like, what about the got shot? You think I give a damn about a P? I ain't no sucker. Like, yeah. So like, there's a lot of that. But for better or for worse, or for good or bad, the quotability is there because the people who wanted to hear that controversial, incendiary shit, they gravitated and they remember that's the stuff that stands out from this album. Like for y'all, what are the lines that stand out on this album to y'all?
Life ain't nothing but bitches and money.
You don't like how I'm living? Well,
yeah. No, that's life ain't nothing but bitches and money, man. That's a standout, That's
definitely a standout.
I was gonna say even like the lines that weren't supposed to be so bold per se, like Ice Cube writes the rhymes that I say. Mm-hmm. It's like that no one has ever done that since. Ain't nobody admitting to having another one of their homeboys writing their records.
You're right.
Did you mention I got a sawed off and I got a plan? I'm gonna go rob a Mexican or something. What is that? Yeah, that's some gangster, right? Something about robbing a Mexican.
I don't know, but there's another example of Mexicans.
Xenophobia.
Getting destroyed in. I'm sure this album contributed to the friction in the early 90s between the black and brown gang.
Yo, probably solely responsible, right?
It didn't help, which, even though I remember, again, the gangsters being, they probably didn't realize this shit till later, because again, the gangsters were so happy to have somebody representing them on wax. At first it's like, hey, but
yeah.
No, those are two great examples, and those are two great examples of like a line that's not so crazy and a line that's very crazy, and yeah, because even deciding to start your verses with a crazy named Ice Cube, like that's what people think of when they think of this album. That is probably the first line that's gonna come to people's minds. Straight Outta Compton, a crazy named Ice Cube. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but there are those moments like they get overlooked, and so poetic wisdom. You'll hear it in the in-betweens, and I think this is what the journalists have run with as they now analyze this album as a body of, work that's in the Library of Congress now, and they're like, oh, the statements they made on Black life at the time is like, you got to be really digging and reaching to find it, but they do make statements. Like Ren's whole verse about police harassment and parts of Cube's verse about police harassment. Those are statements on hood relations with cops. Just because a nigga is brown, like there are moments.
Brown. Yep.
Yeah, it's not all recklessness. It's mostly recklessness, but like that 10% of the album where you're getting those statements on life, even as Cube on Dope Man is sharing his judgment of people who use dope, that's a statement. That's a, look, I'm not gonna preach to you, but I'm gonna tell you there's money to be made off you if you want to be stupid enough to fall into addiction without having the sophistication to articulate that, or the desire to articulate that in a more mature manner. That is pretty much what he's saying on that track.
I'm tired of the jacking, sweating my gang while I'm chilling in the shack, shining the light in my face, and for what? I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, but
yeah.
But those descriptions and yeah, it's there. I don't know how much of it is poetic wisdom, but there are things which I guess we'll get into more as we go through other dimensions. But what y'all giving this album for quotability on a scale from 1 to 5?
5.
Wow. Still quoted, man.
5. This day,
F the police. F the police.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
5. Like,
yeah, man.
Good. All right, so that takes us to Dimension 7. The concepts. Are there any concepts on this album? Any songs that take us into, territory where we got to think from a different angle? We got to like put a little bit more effort into our listen. I think we already kind of touched on this. F the police. They decide to do that as if it's a trial. Dr. Dre is the judge, and he's listening to each person's case and circumstance of police interaction. They all describe 3 different police interactions. We talked about Dope Man. Cube is describing that life from 4 different angles. I think for late 80s,
it didn't have
to even do Dope Man and After Police. That's probably as conceptual as it gets on here.
Yeah, that's really it.
Something to dance to. Would y'all say that's kind of loosely conceptual?
Yeah, because well, how many songs were there like that? Hey, we're at a party. Hey, I'm dancing over here. I'm here. What you want? Yeah, like that was.
Nah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've actually never heard a song like that.
There was never one before it and never one after.
Yo, it's like real-time party rap. Like
Right.
we're rapping as if we're in the party. Most of the
Real-time party rap? I don't know. Nah, N.W.A was straight up.
Yeah.
French.
He's like, yo, play that cut faster. Turn that up a little. I'm trying to dance. I'm grooving. Yo, you killing the vibe. I gotta go home right now. Like, it was a whole conversation on the dance floor.
So yeah, that song definitely that would be it, man.
Yeah, that song would be on Uncut. That would have a video on Uncut.
Yep.
Matter of fact, a lot of songs on Uncut sounded like that song. All right, what y'all giving this on concepts on the scale of 1 to 5?
Yeah, this is low. You gotta rank this low.
2. Can't give it a 1. I'm not gonna totally diss it like a mark ass buster, but 2.
2 here too. Yeah, it's limited.
Right. So I usually put these dimensions together. These are the content dimensions. Dimension 8, the externalized content. How much were these guys talking about the world around them? The hood, politics, the government, whatever, women. And then dimension 9, the internalized content. How much of themselves were they telling you about? How much autobiographical content were they giving you, their inner feelings? So let's talk about the external stuff first. Police relations, right? Their neighborhood.
Social awareness.
Social awareness. You ain't never gonna hear that term in N.W.A together. Social awareness.
No, but I don't know, man. They were giving it to me, man. Don't do crap, kids. Don't do crap. You know what I mean? They were teaching us things, man.
Even if it was silly, a topic is a topic, right? So 8 Ball, Eazy-E, for as silly as he got, he really did stay on track. That whole song was about drunkenness and all the shenanigans that happened while drinking his favorite beverage. So that's topical, right?
Yeah.
F the Police, Straight Outta Compton, I Ain't the One, which is all about not trusting these scheming women, or skeezers was the word of the day.
Oh my God, skeezers.
On a 11 to 13 song album, that's a decent amount of topics. They don't talk about anything with a consciousness, but I love what you said. You said social awareness.
Yeah.
They definitely are making you aware that this happens where they're from, whether it's because of them or people like them. And like I said, topically, just song by song, they do kind of stick to whatever they're talking about. So if Dre is talking about express yourself, he is doing self-expression for that whole song.
Right.
Now that's probably the closest you get to internal content. He's probably the only one on the album that's like, here's my feelings and my thoughts on life. Here's my life philosophy. Cube gives you that on I Ain't the One about women specifically, but Dre is like, you have the power within you. All you got to do is express yourself. Don't let the powers.
That's a conscious record right there on a gangsta album.
Yeah, it's a light conscious. It's not heavy conscious, but it's, there.
It's conscious light. It's conscious light. I hear you.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah, it's funny you say light. Everything is light because when I'm naming some of these concepts and you're saying, it's light. But when I talk about like something like racial inequality or something like that, but Straight Outta Compton, they touched on a lot of stuff. It was like you said, it's in pop.
Yeah.
And then sort of like clowning. So when you say the word light, that's funny that you say that because that's exactly kind of what it was, right? Like, we're gonna on these here and there, but then Eazy's gonna say some funny ass shit to kind of get you out of there, and then it's just So
it's definitely not in a way that interrupts the branding that they were doing throughout the album.
Right.
It's still a gangsta album.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, on Express Yourself, Dre's talking about how they try to ban the records that have curses on it, and he's like, y'all ain't squeaky clean either, but he's still making this point without cursing. So, but it's not as distinct. Express Yourself, that's about as inner monologue as you're gonna get. Here's my feelings and thoughts on life. All right, so what are we giving this Dimension 8 on how much they talked about outside of themselves?
I go 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah, I'll. Yeah, 3.5. If I can't do 3.8, I'll do a 3.5 because it's more of a 4. But I'm not quite there.
Even as we do this album, it's clear to me that like it's hard for us to separate from everything that we've come to know about N.W.A. and try to analyze it by itself. Because y'all like, damn, I got to think of it this way. That's the whole point. All right. So on Dimension 9.
Okay.
From their internal autobiographical, what are y'all giving that?
I will give that a 4. I will give that a 4. 4.5. 4.5. They did a great job, man. The song is called "Express Yourself," man.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Is that the song where he was in the video? He was in the back of the car. The president shot at him.
Yeah.
And then he was still doing it. He did it like this, out of that. Come on, man.
You know that on the deluxe version of the album, they got the extended version with Ren and Cube, who have verses on. I think in the video, Cube has a verse. That's where he's tearing through the paper. But by itself, it's just Dre on the album. So
yeah, no, I give 0.5.
Yeah, I leave songs like that knowing a little bit more about them. Like if it wasn't for I Ain't the One and Express Yourself, I wouldn't really know what they care about as individuals, but that gives me a glimpse on their life philosophy. So I definitely think that's where you get the most internal content. Spoon, what you giving this?
I give it a strong 4.
Okay.
Look no further than Express Yourself. Dre is focused on like giving you his perspective on his life or how he viewed, his existence. I mean, it's hypocritical when you look at some lines, which is funny.
Oh yeah, from the first line, right? Now I'm living in correctional facilities. Like, no, you not.
Right? No. I think he hit the on that song specifically, and then like you said the solo with the I Ain't the One.
Yeah.
Like he gives it all out, puts it all out there, and how he feels about the skeezers.
I say
it's a 4.
What do you say on the end of the song? I don't see no ring on this finger. Beat it. All right, the final dimension 10, storytelling. They say every good classic album has a good story on it. Do we have stories on this album?
I know there's one.
8 Ball is a good story. Very entertaining. I think it had a lot. That song specific. That's my favorite song on the album. A lot of replay value for that one.
Wow. Yeah, 8 Ball is probably the most clear that it's a story. There's a lot of storytelling elements. I think this is something that Bert touched on earlier with Cube's writing. Cube's probably his biggest strength as a rapper is his stories. When people talk about the songs they like from Ice Cube throughout his history, it's been the story raps.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time at South Central, My Summer Vacation, Today Was a Good Day. We be clubbing.
We be clubbing. We be clubbing. Oh my god.
Yay. Yeah.
Let's go.
But yeah, there's parts of his verses where he'll just turn into a story. The second verse of Gangsta Gangsta is a story. Like, yeah, there's all the foul stuff we wound up doing. All the F the Police verses are a story. Or there's parts of it a story. The whole Dope Man, each part is a story. Yeah. So I mean, but 8 Ball is the only song from beginning to end. Here's my day.
Yeah. I think it's easy. It was probably easy for them to bring like those types of experiences to life, man. Even if they didn't live them, you know what I mean, so to speak, man. Like, and another thing is like, just they were just vivid, man, with their descriptions of everything. You know what I mean? Everything was just raw, and they used all the elements, you know what I mean, exposed to them, and they did a good job, man. Hell of a job.
It's not genius level storytelling. It's
no, not at all.
but the stories exist. And for Spoon to say that's his favorite song, it means that some job got done there. And there's a good amount of albums that don't have any story at all. And I think, you know, that I don't know how many people subscribe to that rule, but I'm like, oh, that's a pretty fair standard to have. For a classic rap album to have at least one story, it's not asking too much. What do y'all give this on a scale from 1 to 5?
Storytelling, 4, man. 4. Because like again, like it's light, but it's there. So 4. I'll give it a definite 4.
There goes that word. Light
work.
I'll go around the same. I'll go a 4.25. 4.25 stars. Star Search, remember Star Search? 4 stars.
Wow. Star Search. Yeah, you really showed your age now. So I'll bump that to a 4.5. Okay.
Nah, man. I mean, listen, 88, putting a story in your album, in your record, you doing your album justice. And they did it, like you said, front to end. Getting 8 Ball was that song. Little sprinkled tales in there. But yeah.
I mean, he had a car crash. He was avoiding the cops, and then got turned down by the women. So it's a full day. Little self-deprecating over there. So okay. Yeah. So 4 and 4.5. With that concludes our category 2 review of the classic album by N.W.A, Straight Outta Compton, which spawned all kinds of legacies, movies. Y'all remember that year where everybody was changing their profile avatar to Straight Outta something?
Oh yeah.
Straight out of Spring, Maryland.
Yeah.
Straight out of Nova Scotia. Remember that?
Straight out of Naperville, Illinois. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be the background for this episode. But listen, man, it's always a pleasure. Y'all have made this one of the most memorable guest appearances and one of the dopest collabs. Like I said, I feel like the third unofficial member. Can you please let the people know what y'all got cooking up next? Where they can find you?
You can find us on Instagram, TikTok.
Well, y'all got the dope graphic element to it when y'all do it online. But, you know, hopefully when y'all bring it back, y'all can bring it back as a little bit of both, the in-person and the Zooms. And, you know, the people need it, the streets need it, the culture needs it. Because y'all come from such an authentic place. During the pandemic, a lot of hip-hop trivia stuff popped up out of the blue.
Did, right?
Yeah, it did not seem organic, so I really appreciate what y'all do, and it's a pleasure having y'all. Hurry up with season 2.
Nah, we're gonna get it happening, man. It's coming. Yep.
Cool. In the meantime, follow them on Instagram because they still put up content every week, content to make you think. And y'all are good with the prizes. Y'all be giving away prizes. I won a prize.
People gotta come over to win some prizes, if nothing else. And you know, we trying to shell out some money for people who know their stuff. So even if you gotta tag your homeboys and your homegirls and send them the trivia questions, you know, somebody gonna know it. Sharing is caring.
And I gotta say, on this side of the chair, it felt good putting y'all in the hot seat because sometimes y'all trivia, y'all be having us think differently about stuff that we were just casual about. Like, oh no, this was always dope. And you're like, oh. So it feels good putting that pressure on y'all when y'all gotta be like, oh. Yeah. I appreciate y'all, man. Much love.
Get us back on another one whenever, you know, down the line.
Yeah. Next time I'll let y'all pick. So
Right.
Yeah, we'll do something a little bit more up to date. All right, on that note, y'all know what it is. F a rap critic. They talk about it while I live it. Word to meth.